Manalangin tayo. Bathala, salamat sa lahat ng iyong biyayang ipinagkaloob sa amin. Salamat sa langit, lupa, apoy at tubig. Salamat sa lahat ng iyong likha. Patnubayan mo kami, Bathala, na mamuhay ng payapa at patas. Patnubayan mo kami na maging bukas sa pagkatuto at maging handa sa pagtanggap ng aming mga pagkakamali at kahinaan upang nang sa gayon ay maitama namin ito at mapabuti pa ang paglilingkod sa sambayanan. Patnubayan po ninyo ang aming mga tagapagsalita na makapagbahagi sila sa amin ng mga makabuluhang bagay. Dumaloy nawa sa kanila, Bathala, ang katalinuhan at kausayan mo upang maibahagi nila ito sa amin ng buong buo. Ang lahat ng ito, Bathala, ay dinadalangin namin sa iyo. Amen.
Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Again, welcome po sa ating virtual national orientation on the interim guidelines for the Office Performance Planning and Assessment for FY 2024 onwards. We are very happy po na kayo po ay naka-attend sa ating online orientation kahit na ito po ay virtual lamang, and may mga na-experience or na-encounter ang iba sa atin na difficulties in accessing the meeting link. So a friendly reminder po, gentle reminder. So kung mayroon po kayong kakilala at nahihirapan po sila na maka-access sa meeting link, pakisabihan po sila that they should use their DepEd email account. Okay. Maraming salamat po. So to begin with, let us now acknowledge the participants. Welcome po to our participants from Luzon, Regional Office 1, Regional Office 2, Regional Office 3, Regional Office 4A, 4B, and Regional Office 5. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. And we would like to also acknowledge our participants from the Visayas. Hello, good morning po from Region 6, Region 7, and Region 8. We would like to also acknowledge our participants from the Mindanao region. Good morning po from Region Office 9, 10, 11, Caraga, and we would like to also acknowledge the participants from NCR, Caraga, and CAR. Again, thank you for joining us today. So, to welcome us all in this online activity, let us all listen to Director Mario Bermudez, Director 3 of the BHROD. Magandang umaga po, Director Mar.
Yes, good morning, Mikay. And before I am going to give my message, allow me to say good morning, everyone, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And of course, ang ating mga team dito sa Central Office, headed by our Undersecretary Willie Cabral. Good morning, Yusek. And of course, ang ating chief from the HRDD, Chief Cecil Anyayahan, and the rest. To all our participants, again, isang magandang umaga po sa ating lahat, and welcome to the virtual orientation on the revised Office Performance Planning and Assessment. We are delighted to have you all today. We have the strength of 8,700 ang ating strength ngayon ng umaga, and we are very happy that despite the busy schedule, you were with us today. The Department of Education Central Office, through the Human Resource and Organizational Development, or HROD, has issued a memorandum on the interim guidelines on the Office Performance and Planning Assessment for fiscal year 2024 onwards, including the revised OPCR form last March 27, 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, the said issuance aims to ensure that our office plans, commitment, and performance account for the achievement and contribution of the different delivery units in all governance levels to the agency's organizational outcomes. Gusto po nating lahat na mas malinaw ang kanya-kanya nating taya patungo sa ikabubuti ng sektor ng edukasyon. Further, this interim guideline ensures the immediate integration and alignment of the agency's organizational outcomes and in reflecting office contributions in achieving the strategic priorities set under the Matatag agenda as a direction in resolving basic education challenges. We want to start now pending the finalization and issuance of the DepEd order and the revised RPMS guidelines, which the BHROD has been working on for quite a while. Later during the presentation, you may note the salient features of the revised OPCR form to include the following. Number one, the alignment of the office or the school commitments with the overall organizational outcomes and programs. And second is that streamlining commitments and targets as follows. Number one, commitment to organizational outcomes, innovating and intervening accomplishments, organizational effectiveness, leadership competencies, and the core behavioral competencies. This OPCR form shall be used throughout the one-year RPMS cycle, which covers the 4 phases, ladies and gentlemen. And starting this year, all heads of offices and chiefs of functional divisions, offices, units, and all governance levels shall use the OPCRF. Kasali na po kayo ng mga school heads natin na nasa mga paaralan, nasa field. And we are hoping that with this orientation, we wish to provide you the proper guidance and address possible areas of clarification. That's why we enjoin you to concentrate and listen to the discussions, to the topics to be presented by our resource persons. Of course, nangunguna dyan ang ating USEC, Willie Cabral, and our team from the HRDD. And we enjoin again your utmost cooperation and engagement to make the most out of this orientation. You may ask questions and clarifications from the resource person after the talk. And the Human Resource and Development, the Human Resource Development Division, or HRDD, as the program management team, will also provide assistance to you if necessary. Again, a warm welcome to you to this virtual orientation on the office performance planning and assessment. May this activity bring success and growth to our office and contribute to the overall goal of the Department of Education. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Director Mario. So now, before we move on to the discussions, we'll first have our group of opportunity, or group photo rather. So maybe request everyone to kindly, since we are in the town hall feature, I am requesting everyone na lang po from the Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, or kung kayo ay nasa iisang conference room, or can you send us na lang po a selfie photo of yours attending this virtual national orientation? All right. So thank you so much po. To guide us on the flow of the orientation, let me share with you po the online the orientation program flow of this session. So we will actually napag-start na tayo na ating opening program from 8:30. So until 8:50, and then 8:50 to 9:50, session 1, context setting or priming session. 9:50 to 10:30 a.m., the Session 2 Interim Guidelines on Office Performance Planning and Assessment for FY 2024 onwards. And from 10:30 to 10:35, we will be having a first mental health break, and then 10:35 to 11:30 a.m., our session 3 step-by-step guide in accomplishing the updated OPCRF. And from 11:30 to 11:35 po, we will be having our second health break. And then for the 11:35 to 11:50, so the Q&A will be uh, our session. So, and lastly po, the 11:50 and the 12 p.m. is the closing program. So just a reminder din po to those participants who were not be able to join the meeting link. We will be sharing to you the RPMS library, which is already shared in the chat, in the Q&A box. So, access na lang po yung link na yon. As kung ma-access nyo na po siya ngayon, mapapansin nyo na hindi pa po naka-upload doon yung mga slide decks, and i-finalize pa po namin, and the recorded video will be included in the RPMS library. Okay. So, I hope na nakita nyo na po yung ating mga links, the attendance link, the Q&A link, and the RPMS library link in our Q&A section. So, just I'll be proceeding on introducing our priming session speaker. So we will now begin our first session po. And the first session is a priming session with the objective to provide context and rationale on this updated guidelines in office performance management in the Department of Education. So let us give our attention to the officer in charge of the Undersecretary for Human Resource and Organizational Development. Magandang umaga po, Yusek Wilfredo E. Cabral.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Sa lahat po ng ating participants, thank you very much for attending this orientation. Before I share my screen and while the technical is preparing for it, let me just emphasize that for so long a time, we understand that the school play the major role. Schools plays the major role in achieving the organizational outcome. And we have been saying since time immemorial that the quality of education is best fought and won inside the classroom. So the locus of intervention, the locus of effective operation and administration reside within the schools. And our initiative of coming up with a seemingly drastic approach to ensure that performance management in the achievement of organizational outcome should bear fruits as what is expected, given that this is an accountability and responsibility that is given to us. So let me start by discussing first what the orientation is all about. I will provide an overall impression on what are we doing, and consequently all the deep diving and detailed discussion of all of this will follow suit, hoping that you remain attentive, and at the same time while you have probably some clarifications, you are being encouraged to submit that to us, either critical or constructive, so that we can make this initiative really significant for all of us. So this morning, as we start this orientation, I would like to discuss the overview of the interim guidelines on the preparation, submission, evaluation, and approval of the OPCRF. And this is a mechanism that we have been doing for quite a while, and we would like to ensure that the responsiveness of this document is not just a mere burden or a compliance on our side, but a significant document as well for us to review, revisit, and make an honest assessment whether we're moving forward for continuous improvement. So on the next slide, let me present to you the objectives of this orientation. Precisely, we would like to review the agency's organizational outcome, what uh, what is our take on that, and how can we possibly ensure that this organizational outcome is really achieved. What is the or what are the roles of the distinct and significant roles of the division offices, regional offices, the delivery units, particularly in the school, and how to streamline the processes for the achievement of these goals and objectives. And hopefully, we can also establish a strengthened mechanism to elevate our performance. So, we will have this discussion flow. I will initially talk about organizational goals and outcomes of the department, how we proceed for the DepEd performance management system, and our interim guidelines and our takeoff for the FY 2024 performance management. And lastly is on streamlining commitment, targets, and competencies. So let us take a look on the next slide on the basis of the organizational outcome. So the recalibration of our performance is shown in these connections between and among organizational outcome, which is our agency commitment, and how are this or how is this organizational outcome being broken down into programs as may be defined in the program expenditure classification. And looking at the internal documents that we have, the basic education development plan, and on the strategic priority actions that is contained in the Matatag agenda. So let us take a look at the organizational outcome on the next slide. So the organizational outcome of the department is anchored on several development frameworks and priorities. And that is from a national perspective, we look at international as well, particularly on global education goals, of which we are part of, the societal goals, the sectoral goals, and organizational goals. So these are actually contained in a document which is the framework for the organizational performance indicators. And looking at that, we have this organizational goal for DepEd, of which the outcome should look at the access of every Filipino to an enhanced basic education program, thereby enabling them to prepare for further education in the world of work achieved. So this is a very tall order, seemingly huge. But if we're going to look at the way in which this organizational outcome can be achieved through the program expenditure classification as detailed on the next slide, can look at the Prexi in terms of 5 programs that cuts across all of the operations and mandate of the Department of Education. So we look at Education Policy Development Program, the Basic Education Inputs Program, the Inclusive Education Program, Education Human Resource Development Program, Support to Schools and Learners Program. So what is being done at the central, at the region, and the division should be down to policy that can be implemented down the school and ensure that critical inputs to basic education are also felt in the school, and that we cater to all types of learners that we have for purposes of defining what inclusivity is and ensure that our teaching, non-teaching personnel are provided the needed professional learning and development programs under the Education Human Resource Development and other support to schools and learners program. So this program expenditure classification defines the outcome and the output indicators, and all of this are implemented moving forward, and we use or centers around the principles of fiscal discipline, allocative efficiency, and operational efficiency. The fiscal discipline, as I may point out, is that it is a principle that we say that we are utilizing our fiscal resources on the intent of what is really needed. So the intention of which is to ensure that we utilize on the right things, no? And allocative efficiency and operational efficiency should go hand in hand with the fiscal discipline, knowing the fact that we have uh, limited budget, and we are given within the limits of fiscal discipline. We need to ensure that these principles are upheld in all our daily operations. So on the next slide, I will talk about the basic education development plan. We understand that sometime in 2022, and which was also adopted, this basic education development plan has been the working document as a national goal of the Department of Education, which covers the four pillars of access, equity, quality, resiliency, and well-being. So we look at some of the critical success indicators that all our school age children, whether and even OSYs and adults, are given access to relevant basic learning opportunities. And even those children in the issue of equity, they are given that benefit of being provided the equity initiatives, whether they are situated in disadvantaged or depressed areas. In whatever situation on that that they are in, we provide that opportunity for them to benefit from the basic education learning opportunities. And in terms of quality, we look at the successful attainment of the learning standards, so that we believe that our learners will be able to cope with the changing demands as they grow, and realize these aspirations by looking at the necessary skills that they should have, so that they can pursue the chosen paths that they aspire for. And along the way, we need also to provide opportunities, that resiliency, so that they have the opportunity as well to know the rights, and to safeguard them as well. So looking at the four pillars, there are also enabling mechanisms to ensure that all of these critical success indicators are well afforded. And so enabling mechanisms in terms of governance and management should be also in place. To put more meaning in the basic education development plan, sometime in 2023, during the basic education reports, our Vice President and the Secretary of the Department of Education launched the Matatag Agenda. This pertains to the list of priority strategic actions that support the attainment of the Basic Education Development Plan along the pillars of access, equity, quality, and resiliency and well-being. And it is a very concrete declaration of how are we going to deal with by making the curriculum relevant to our learners, by taking steps to accelerate the delivery of basic education, to take good care of our learners, and to provide support to our teachers. So along this line, we use all of these documents in the issuance of the interim guidelines, so that we know that we are guided along the way to ensure that we are towards the same direction. All of the delivery units, starting from the schools up to the central office, and that the interfacing and the connection really happens and is fluid. We make use of all of this as basis for the office performance commitment. So on the next slide, let me just look at the some basic, the business of education. We are provided with budget, and the budget has a certain cost structure that pertains to general administration and support, the operation, and support to operation. So as we perform our these functions and services expected from us, particularly down the school and up to the central office, we look at the at this cost structure. For one, for operation, the basic mandate of the department is to ensure that there is delivery of quality basic education services. And along that line, we also need to ensure that there are regulatory services in the operation and in the performance of the functions and services that are expected from us. And in order to support that mandate, there is general management and supervision, the legislative liaison services, the human resource development, the financial and administrative services. And in order to support that for decision making and to ensure that our programs, our initiatives are actually gearing towards addressing emerging and continuing issues of quality basic education, the planning and policy formulation, the program monitoring and evaluation, public information, programs, research and development, statistical services, information systems development are in place to support the operation. And on the next slide, we also look at the governance and enabling mechanisms, and that the functions of services that we're talking about in relation to the quality management system we have been pursuing for quite a while may refer to the core functions and services, the management functions, and the support function. So all of this should be happening, all of this should be well integrated, and this must be robust in all of the delivery units. So the governance enabling mechanisms also capture in the next slide within the theme of that cost of operation. So the governance and enabling mechanisms in terms of how we regulate our services, how we regulate our schools, how we ensure that the delivery of education services fall within the parameters of quality and excellence, and how do we support its normal day-to-day operations in terms of general administration and support, and what policies have been formulated, and how are these being implemented to ensure that the support to operation is also vibrant and seamless. So let me go to the reason why we have to issue an interim guidelines for the performance. So let us look at DepEd performance management system on the next slide. We know that DepEd Order Number 2 Series of 2015 was issued to ensure that there is an established guidelines and the implementation of the RPMS in the Department of Education. And the department order guides us in order to ensure that all delivery units, offices are guided on what to do on an annual basis of defining their targets, performance targets, how to monitor them, and even assess to what extent have we achieved at a certain point. However, on the next slide, we would like to establish that this department order, on the next slide, please. We need to have an update on the ongoing initiative, and the reason why we issued this interim guidelines is that while there is an ongoing initiative to revise the RPMS, the DO2 2015 in particular, we are cognizant of the fact that there were various internal and external demands and priorities that emerged. And for us to be responsive, for us to be relevant on the changing landscape of education, as well as the public request for improving the quality of services, we need to look at the DO. And this has been implemented for almost 9 years now. And so to ensure relevance and alignment with the set of priorities and demands, we issued the interim guidelines for the FY 2024 OPCRF planning and preparation. We put in there onwards because that is the direction now. For one reason, that our current performance management system barely captures the organizational outcome. So why do we say that? If this has been implemented since 2015 and our definition of accomplishment and achievement seem to be very identical, and we measure in terms of what have we done, without necessarily identifying the impact of what have we done on the attainment of what we aspire for in the Department of Education, it's really high time for us to revisit and ensure that all our effort really capture the initiatives, the undertaking, the endeavors of our delivery units that contribute to the organizational outcome. So let me just proceed with the next slide by looking at the direction. So our direction now is to strengthen that mechanism in capturing the contribution and achievement of the different governance levels to the organizational outcome of the department. Please note, and I highlight contribution and achievement. It's not just making sure that there are activities being conducted. We need to look at how those activities, those PAPs, programs, activities, and projects are implemented may have impact on the attainment of the organizational outcome by ensuring that schools in one direction, division offices, regional offices are actually in the alignment and in pursuit of the achievement of the organizational outcome. So that is where we are coming from, and we are actually getting the support of our schools and all delivery units to make it happen. Next slide, please. So how are we going to deal with the 2024 performance management? Okay, so the FY 2024, I'm sorry, that's calendar year. The 2024 OPCRF shall have the following features. One, it has the element of our commitment to organizational outcomes. We will also capture the innovating and intervening accomplishments. We need also to identify how effective the organization is by looking at parameters within which we can identify whether there is an existing organizational effectiveness defined by each of the parameters to which we are being measured. Sometimes, and I need to be very honest on this, we are reporting something which we consider as an accomplishment, but probably not necessarily contributing. And this could be identified as nice to have rather than must have. We also need to look at the leadership competencies and the core behavioral competencies. The last two, the leadership competencies and core behavioral competencies, pertains to the individual head of the office or the delivery units, just to ensure that we make a substantial contribution as an individual in making progress in our respective areas of jurisdiction. Knowing the fact that as contained in the current guideline, the OPCRF of the head of office is actually the IPCRF of that individual. So we try to merge that by looking at the office outcomes and the individual outcomes. So let me try to dissect each of the components of the salient features of the OPCRF. Let us look at the commitment to organizational outcomes. Excuse me. So, in terms of office performance measure, which is contained in Part 1A of the OPCRF, this is about 60% as a measure, and it shall capture the office commitments, our performance and accomplishments based on its mandates, and key result areas, the contributions of the office directly targeting the organizational outcomes as may be indicated in the General Appropriations Act, the GAA, programs, sub-programs, in terms of the PREXI, the Basic Education Development Plan pillars, and the Matatag Agenda. Why is it that we consider that? So, to provide certain liberty and flexibility based on the nature of the delivery units to ensure that there is still alignment along these documents that we have. So it's necessary that we can put entirely what do we envision to happen for 2024. We do understand that it's already second quarter of the calendar year, but we would like to somehow even so much later that we do the tweaking right now so that by 2025, when we are able to come up with the revised guidelines on the RPMS, everybody has already a feel of how to do it and ensure whether there is some indications that we are making a dent in the way we measure and establish the performance management system. Next slide, please. We look at the innovating and intervening accomplishments. Okay. There are innovations. There are interventions. That's a fact. But are those interventions really targeting or contributory to the organizational commitments? So, in that effect, that account for 20% in the office performance measure, the innovating and intervening accomplishments should capture the outputs, the outcomes of the office that are enabling, supportive, and or contributory to the achievement of the organizational commitments. Say, for example, if our target is to ensure that there are about 70 or 60% of our learners achieving mastery of a certain competency and in a certain key stage, then there must be some innovations on the way we do things. So we're shifting to a certain point where we say that this is a kind of intervention that we need to make a mark of improvement. Okay, and that captures under the quality aspect, and that also captures the uh, indicators, outcome indicators, and output indicators as discussed in the GAA. So all of this should be enabling. You can even look at the process improvement that contributes to the KRA of the office. And of course, those process improvement should include addressing the targets na maaaring we were not able to achieve in the previous fiscal year. On the next slide, we can look at our organizational effectiveness. Okay, so the Department of Education is also being evaluated in terms of our accountabilities by oversight agencies by looking at several oversight accountabilities, and we tried to capture as well the organizational effectiveness in terms of certain parameters or outputs that are related to office performance, particularly in terms of oversight commitments, like the performance-based bonus oversight requirements, and that pertains to financial stewardship, process improvement, and client satisfaction, and even our daily operations. So we tried to capture that as well in our OPCRF, so that at the end of the rating period, we might have a single document that capture the overall or the annual accomplishment, and looking at areas that need improvement, looking at areas that we can really review, sort of providing an in-depth analysis why it has been happening. Perhaps you might be wondering, and this question has been posed even when I was a classroom teacher, and I was asking even myself that why is it that there has to be some reasons why there is deteriorating performance in along the continuum of education, and as of this time, probably we don't have yet the good answer for that. Nonetheless, it's not too late for all of us to make that turnaround and make sure that the initiatives that we are doing, along with a certain framework of doing it, we can really make a difference. On the next slide, we also look at the individual performance measures. As you can see, we look at the performance of the office, we look at the performance of the individual. And this particular portion on leadership competencies, which is 2.5 on account of the total performance measure, is that we need to look at the competencies that are expected from the heads of functional offices who are either middle or holding managerial and executive or supervisory positions, by looking the indicators of leading people, performance management, people development. While we are, this might be somewhat on a checklist basis, but we're looking forward to establishing a better measure for it. Nonetheless, this can also be used as an input to identifying our readiness to take on bigger and higher role and responsibilities. The next slide, which is the part 2B, also deal with individual performance measure, but these are competencies that cut across all job groups within the organization. And these are core competencies relating to how the individuals embody and lead the values of the organizations pertaining to self-management, professionalism and ethics, results focus, teamwork, service orientation, and innovation. So these are also checklists in such a way that we have the opportunity to reflect within ourselves and even your rater and approving authority on who should be given that consideration in terms of critical incidents or events that might have provide might have provided that opportunity to be rated on that in terms of all of these indicators. And on the next slide, there are also other components of the OPCRF, and I am pertaining to some components. While I discussed the 5 components in terms of evaluation, the next 3 would be dealing on OPCRF components as a reportorial requirements. So, as I mentioned, on the next slide, there is some connection. There are some connections within these parts of 3 elements which pertains to reportorial requirements, the summary of ratings, the office improvement plan, and the individual development plan. So how does summary of ratings look like? So in that, the summary of rating shall provide the overall performance rating of the office obtained from Part 1A up to Part 2C of the OPCRF. So which means we need to look at how the organizational commitment happens in the school, how and what are those intervening and innovating initiatives that have been done, and how that does it contribute to the attainment of the organizational outcome, and of course our ability to establish mechanisms on making sure that the organization is effective in what it is doing, as I mentioned, along areas of financial stewardship, operational efficiency, client satisfaction, and everything. And then the next one is on the office improvement plan. Why do we need to do this? Because as embodied as well in our quest for a national quality management system, of which we're trying to cascade everything on a phased approach from the CO, RO, and SDO, we're also looking at how schools should be able to capture and document its own improvement process. And the improvement and development plans of the school shall detail the action of the office or the school, reflecting the strength and areas for development and improvement as a result of the performance review and evaluation. And it should define some steps and concrete actions to improve performance within the context of organizational goals. So, like for instance, if the school is perennially getting a very low performance in terms of one areas of operation, that could be something that they can really look up to. And lastly is on the individual improvement plan. The individual development plan shall detail the learning objectives based on the strength and areas for improvement of the individual rating. At ito po ang magiging basehan natin ng mga initiatives for the design and implementation of interventions for personal and professional growth of the ratings. So, in effect, we're trying to veer away from the usual practice of sending out links, asking people down the line what are the common interventions that we can somehow develop and make accessible for them. But the document itself will tell that these are the L&D interventions that should be provided to schools on the basis of that performance. So I think to sum it up, we'd like to streamline our commitments and targets so that knowing that all of that components, we look at how. So how it's going to be. Una, what the central office will be doing at the start of any fiscal year, and upon approval of all the the initiatives and POPs, we will cascade the organizational outcomes based on the Prexy, and we will provide that opportunity for the delivery units within the Matatag framework on how this organizational outcome can be achieved. As we cascade it down in terms of several statistics, several programs, outcome indicators, then moving up and going back to the CO so that there is some sort of connection, is that we would like to establish the contribution of the organizational outcomes of the delivery units from CO, RO, SDO, and schools. So there is a sort of interfacing, sort of connection. So the accountability and responsibility has been shared among offices and among individuals as well, so that the accountability as defined in the accountability authority and responsibility are well defined. And within that, we can also draw and deduce some other mechanisms, parameters to identify what delivery units, who are performing well, and who are actually making that contribution. Of course, without necessarily doing the usual ranking, but of course on a communication, on establishing a communication that these are the areas within which you need to improve on, and we would like also to recognize areas to which the significant contributions have been made. So how are we going to do that? On the next slide, I'd like to present to you the phases, the task and activity. This will be discussed in full detail later. So let me skip that area, but move on to the accountability matrix. So in the alignment of the organizational performance with the organizational outcomes, we look at the organizational outcome based on the GAT FY 2024 along this Prexy, and some of the initiatives that are introduced based on the Matatag agenda. But we look at the outcome indicators of, like for instance, the percentage of public schools meeting the standard ratio for teachers. So there are certain offices and at different layers of governance which are accountable for such by of course looking at the OER's HROD, the BHROD, SED in particular, the regional office in terms of the administrative division personnel, and the schools division offices in terms of SGOD and the admin personnel. So we are trying to come up with that accountability matrix so that we know who is responsible for what, and even identifying to which a certain process ends and when that process starts, which means we are also trying to establish the fact that the seamless connection and interfacing between and among people and each office is concerned should be seamless and really fluid. On the next slide, we have also to look at the detailed discussion on that. I mentioned about organizational outcome, and I mentioned about Prexy, and as we said, there are certain outcome and output indicators. These accountability matrix are even well defined, and there are indicators that are not actually reflected for one reason. In the context of how do we operate as an agency, we know that the central office is tasked to do the policies, the policy formulation, the standard setting, the direction setting. The regional office is in terms of standard adjustment, support to policy implementation, support to other delivery units. And division in the schools in terms of standards compliance, policy implementation, and providing feedback on the policies, and even achievement of the daily operations targets, and eventually move that. So what I am trying to say is that there are indicators, whether outcome or output, that may not be directly reflected in a certain delivery units, but anything that they are doing within operations, then doing their functions, key result areas, as a summary of that, could really contribute on the attainment of the organizational outcome. So in a more detailed, using numbers and the statistics, and in terms of performance targets, like for instance, we look at here on the policy development under Basic Education Research Fund. One of the targets under number of policies formulated, reviewed, and issues, and education researches, there is a certain number which is as committed in the General Appropriations Act, a total of 560 for FY 2024. This 560 is distributed across several regions, and each of them shall have 35. And chances are there will be, out of the 35, say for instance, in Region 1, one of the researchers can be coming from your schools. And we would like to ensure that all of those initiatives, in particular, support the outcome indicator, that completed education researches are used for policy development. And of course, as a result, there must be some sort of client satisfaction in terms of satisfactory feedback on the issued policies. So this is just a classic example on how the schools can really contribute on that. But you can focus really more on what are the deliverables that are concrete and really tied up with the operations of the school. Next slide, please. Okay. Next slide. All right. So, can you go back to the previous slide before my last slide? Okay. So I mentioned about that just to mention, just to make sure that you are adept, and you do understand your processes that are happening in your school, within the sphere of your authority, responsibility, and accountability, within the areas of school-based management, because as I mentioned earlier, and on that particular slide, your OPCRF is not, in terms of timeline, is in terms of a school calendar. So your commitment should start at the beginning of the school year and shall be measured in terms of the end of school year. So which means that the schools shall follow the school calendar in the preparation of the OPCRF. So in our case, since there has been already a memorandum saying that the startup classes shall be July of 29 of 2024, then we're looking at May at the end of the school year. So which means that the preparation of the OPCRF is on a yearly basis, school calendar as the reference, and that is subjected to the issuance of the department order pertaining to school calendar. So that's how the school should be operating. So With all of that in mind, I hope I have provided you with the overall perspective on the reason, the whys, and the hows of why we are doing this interim guidelines. Uh, but as I mentioned earlier as well, we would like also to hear feedback from you so that we can make even the policy more responsive, and that could be the best input for the revision of the DO2 of 2015. So sa inyo pong lahat, maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig. Magandang umaga po. Mabuhay po kayo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yusek Willie, for providing us with a solid context and well-rounded rationale of the issuance of the interim guidelines. So we were able po to capture that while we have our office mandates and functions as offices in various governance levels, meron po tayong iisang direksyon. At lahat na ating contribution or efforts ay patungo sa iisang direksyon na kung saan ito ay ang achievement ng DepEd's organizational outcomes. Muli, maraming salamat po, Yusek Willie.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Moving on, the next session is deep diving into the interim guidelines on the office performance planning and assessment for FY 2024 onward. So, I hope nabasa po natin yung ating DM or route na 2024-0586 at we are hoping po na meron na po kayong kaunting idea. So now to discuss in detail this interim guidelines, may we call on Project Development Officer of the BHROD HRDD, Ma'am Ruby Chanda J. Crisostomo. Magandang umaga po, Ma'am Ruby. Ma'am Chanda.
Thank you, Mikay. Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes po.
Okay. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Magandang umaga po sa ating naggigitingan na mga school heads, no? Good morning po sa inyong lahat. And I'm so happy to see na umabot po tayo ng 10,000 today, no? Pero sabi ko nga po sa team, 1/4 pa lang ito or 1/5 pa lang ito ng total school heads or total number of schools natin, ano? Pero rest assured that we will be providing a recording of this orientation so that your fellow school heads may also be able to watch, and learn from this orientation. I'd like to take this opportunity also to thank Yusek Willie for providing a very comprehensive priming session for the interim guidelines on the office performance management and assessment, no? So hindi na po ako mahihirapan masyado dito sa aking session. So maraming salamat po ulit Yusek, no? And for my presentation, I will be discussing, sabi nga po ni Mikay, the details of the interim guidelines on the office performance planning and assessment for 2024 onwards. This is being issued as a strand memo number DM OUHROD 2024-0586. And in that interim guidelines, meron tayong cover and meron tayong Annex A. Annex A is a lengthy document that discusses the guidelines from performance planning down to performance individual development planning, and rewarding. And Annex B of that guidelines already give you the prescribed OPCRF or the form itself, the template of the OPCRF that we will be using starting this 2024. So I hope po na nabasa nyo na yung interim guidelines, ito pong issuance na ito. We have uploaded the same in the RPMS library along with the other attachments which we will run through in this session. So let me start again with the next slide. Ito po, no, the DepEd organizational goals and outcomes. So, siguro naman po at this point, no, medyo na-instill na sa atin that the basic intention or the primary intention of the issuance of these interim guidelines is primarily to have a clearer and a more explicit attribution or a clear attribution of our performance commitments, targets, and accomplishments that will contribute, no, to the attainment of our organizational goals and outcomes as embedded or as encapsulated in the General Appropriations Act, in the Basic Education Development Plan, no, as discussed by Yusek kanina, and in the Matatag priority. So hindi po ba mas masarap, no, magtrabaho if we know that we are contributing to the overall attainment of all of these or outcomes that we have identified. Sige po, next slide. Now, in this interim guidelines, the goal really is to strengthen the mechanism in capturing the contribution of the different governance levels from central office down to our schools in the achievement of the organizational outcomes. Yesterday po, we're already done with the orientation with the central offices, bureau services, and functional divisions. We're done na rin po kami with the regional office and division office. And syempre po, last but definitely not the least, sabi nga po ni Yusek, ang totoong laban po ng edukasyon ay nasa school. Kaya po hinuli talaga natin ang schools, no? Nakapag-practice kami kahapon in this presentation. So, gusto po natin na yung itong organizational outcomes are clearly, clearly laid down and cascaded from the delivery units in the central office down to our schools. As you know po, we still have the DepEd Order number 2. In the next slide, we have the DepEd Order number 2, or the establishment of the results-based performance management system. No, while we have these interim guidelines, we would like to emphasize that we are still operating within the bounds of DepEd Order number 2. So doon po sa DepEd Order, nandoon pa rin po, no, na ang ating performance cycle covers 1 year, no, as compared to other agencies. They may have quarterly or semestral performance cycle, pero tayo po, we retain the 1 year, no, performance cycle as indicated in the DepEd Order number 2. We also retain the 4 phases of the RPMS, because ito naman po talaga ang this is what is mandated by the Civil Service Commission. So in the 4 phases, we still undergo the performance planning and commitment, the performance monitoring and coaching, the performance review and evaluation, and the performance rewarding and development planning. So we still operate within these bounds, no, or within the 4 phases of the RPMS. We just needed to do some changes in the form and in some of our processes, so that we would be able to not only capture, ito pong naka-flash in the next slide, not only capture the developments that have emerged throughout the years since 2015, but also to improve to improve the cascading of the organizational outcomes. As what Yusek really said earlier, the existing template barely capture what we ought to deliver, no, in attaining the organizational outcomes. So I mentioned kanina that we have various developments and priorities that have emerged in 2015, and all of these, no, in this 5 bullets, hindi po ito captured in our DepEd Order number 2. That is the reason why we are revisiting this DepEd Order since the pandemic time. No, gusto natin siyang i-revise so that it will be aligned with the rationalization plan. No, we have done our RAT plan after the issuance of these guidelines. We've already there are changes already in the implementation of the performance-based bonus since 2015, and we haven't really embedded or integrated this in our DepEd Order number 2. We've already adopted the professional standards for teachers, for school heads, and for supervisors. And hindi pa po ito integrated in the DepEd Order. This is one big initiative that we want to integrate in our DepEd Order number 2. And of course, we have different priorities every time we change administration. Ngayon po, we have the Matatag agenda, and every time an administration changes, pwedeng magkaroon ng iba't ibang priorities, ang ating administration, and so that we want our guidelines to be flexible enough so that we can navigate through these changes and so that we can stand with time. Okay. In the next slide, this is just a screenshot of our issuance and the prescribed form, the new OPCRF for that will be used starting this school year. But before I dive in to the details of the interim guidelines, we would like lang po to answer basic questions. Number one, ano bang scope nitong interim guidelines? Ang scope po nito ay mula central office hanggang schools. So gagamitin po ito lahat ng opisina sa central office, regional office, division offices, and schools. And it will be effective starting this 2024. So that would mean that DepEd offices in the central office, regional office, and division offices will be using this in capturing their performance from January of this year and up to December of this calendar year. Mas swerte po tayo sa school because yung school po hindi pa nag-uumpisa ang inyong performance cycle. You will start using these guidelines starting this upcoming school year 2024 to 2025. So basically po, mayroon pa tayong time para pag-aralan itong interim guidelines and to have to really look into the elements and how we can craft specific objectives and performance indicators before the start of the upcoming school year. Okay, next is sino-sino po? Sino-sino yung gagamit nitong OPCR4? Lagi po namin ito natatanggap na question, even before the issuance of these interim guidelines. And actually, one of the reasons why we issued this interim guidelines is to provide clarity talaga kung sino-sino yung dapat gumagamit ng OPCR at sino-sino ang dapat gumagamit ng IPCR. So at the central office, of course, our undersecretaries, assistant secretaries, bureau and service directors shall use the OPCR. Aside from their CESPES, of course, they will use their OPCRF. At the regional office, of course, our regional directors, ARD, and chiefs of the functional divisions. Ganun din po sa division office, schools division superintendent, ASDS, and the chief of CID and SGOD should use our OPCRF. So ibig sabihin po, ang user of our OPCRF should our third level officials up to chief level. Now going down to our schools, our OPCRF shall be used by all elementary, junior high school, and senior high school heads, including the assistant school principals. No? Sana po malinaw ito. When we say school heads, no, it includes full-fledged principals. It includes head teachers who are handling elementary schools, who are acting as school heads in elementary schools. And it also includes teacher in charge or OICs that serve as school head in specific schools. So dapat lang po merong official designation that would say that you are officially designated as school head in a particular school. So sana po malinaw po yan, ano? Lahat ng public elementary and secondary school heads, including assistant school principals, should use the OPCRF. Now, ang tanong, Ms. Chanda, ang head teacher po ba sa secondary who are serving as department head, ay gagamit po ba ng OPCRF? Again po, wala pong office of the department head. So hindi po OPCRF ang kanilang gagamitin. IPCRF pa rin po ang head teachers handling departments or subject groups in the secondary. Head teachers lang po who are serving as school heads in elementary schools ay gagamit po ng OPCRF. Okay? Sige po. Next slide, please. Okay. Ito po yung ating existing performance cycle for as also indicated in DepEd Order number 2. So for non-school-based personnel, ika-clarify ko po no, non-school-based, meaning wala po sa school, will follow the calendar year. So they will start their performance planning and commitment phase 1 in either December or January, no? December of the previous year or January of the current year. Then they will go through the phase 2, and their phase 3 mid-year will be in July, and their final year-end assessment will be in December, no? And of course, the phase 4 will also be in December. Now, school-based personnel, when we say school-based personnel, regardless whether teaching or non-teaching, all of them, no, at the school, teaching and non-teaching, shall follow the school year or the school calendar based on the official DepEd order or DepEd issuance on the school calendar. So isa po ito sa binago natin, ano, medyo tinweak natin from the DepEd order number 2. Sa DepEd order number 2 po kasi, hindi po ako nagkakamali, yung performance cycle at the school level starts in May and in I think April, no? However, malala niyo po, during the pandemic, we have deviated from the usual school calendar, which starts in June, no, and ends in March. That is the reason why in these interim guidelines, we provided some sort of flexibility in the performance cycle of schools that is subject to the official issuance of the school calendar. So in these guidelines, we will see, no, that for school-based personnel, ang inyo pong phase 1 for performance planning and commitment will now start 1 month prior to the opening of classes. Kung yun po, ang opening of classes ay ang opening of classes ay July 29, July 29, that would mean that our phase 1 should start by June 29 or within that 1 month period, no? Now, the end or the phase 3, no, of our performance cycle, particularly the mid-year review, we indicated here 5 months after, no, 5 months after the opening of classes or during your inset. No, you may do your mid-year review during your inset. And of course, the year-end review shall happen after the last day of classes after the last day of classes. Hindi na po kami dito naging very particular on when you will be doing the performance review and evaluation, as well as the individual development planning or of our school improvement planning, because we know that we have another issuance for another policy on the 30-day mandatory vacation for our teachers. So um, you may use you may do your performance rewarding and development planning, as well as your performance review and evaluation during this period. So long as hindi po siya aabot doon sa school opening, no? Yun yung performance review and evaluation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this table is just a tabular representation of what I have discussed, no, for your reference. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now go to the salient features of the new OPCRF. As discussed earlier po by Yusek Willie, we have different portions, no? Kung nabasa niyo na po yung ating guidelines, if you have looked into the prescribed OPCRF template, makikita niyo po itong mga portions na ito. Now, we have the first three portions of the OPCRF. It captures the office performance. In the next slide, please. In the office performance, it comprises 95% of the overall OPCRF rating. And it covers, number 1, commitment to organizational outcomes. Number 2, part 1B, innovating and intervening accomplishments. And part 1C, organizational effectiveness. Now, ano ang makikita dito sa part 1A, commitment to organizational outcomes? These are your basic office or delivery unit functions. Full functions po natin. Our school KRAs. Ito po yung laman ng organizational outcomes. But what we want to highlight in this portion is that there should be a clear, very clear attribution to their direct or indirect contribution to the organizational outputs indicated in the GAA, BEDP, or the Matatag priorities. No. Later on, I will discuss further on how we will craft, no, our how will we accomplish part 1 of our OPCR. Next will be the part 1, innovating and intervening accomplishments. No. In this portion, we want to capture naman the office or the delivery unit or the school's outputs and outcomes that are enabling, supportive, or contributory to the achievement of the organizational commitments or school KRAs as indicated in part 1A. So halimbawa po, ang ating school KRA, for example, is on learning delivery. Meron tayong learning delivery. Or learning environment, no? If our KRA's school is the learning environment, and we have identified outcomes or outputs under this KRA, ano naman yung mga innovations na nagawa natin, no? Ano yung mga interventions na nagawa natin in order to deliver our outputs under learning delivery? So halimbawa po, no, meron ba tayong ginawang innovations in ensuring that the schools, no, that the schools are safe, no, and healthy and enabling for teaching and learning? Ano-ano po itong mga innovations na ito? We can capture that in this portion of our OPCR. Next will be part 1C, the organizational effectiveness. So, in our existing Deputy Order number 2 po, hindi ito captured, no? Or hindi malinaw how we will capture the mandatory PBB or oversight requirements. So, ano-ano po ito? Nandito po yung ating budget utilization rate, client satisfaction, and streamlining of our processes. Mamaya po makikita natin yung detalye ng mga ito. In the next slide, 5% of the overall total OPCRF rating shall go to the competencies of the head of school, no, the leadership and core behavioral competencies. Now, you may be asking, nasaan naman po yung functional? Hindi po namin nakikita yung PPSSH in this prescribed template, no? Right now po, the PHROD is still studying and exploring ways how to properly embed the PPSSH in your OPCRFs, no? Kaya po, right now, we are limited only to capturing the leadership and the core behavioral competencies. Later on po ipapakita natin the behavioral indicators that capture that show no that we need to demonstrate for each of these categories or competencies, no. But basically ito din po yung mga competencies na existing in our current version of OPCRF. Okay, the next slide. Ayan. So, basically po, by having all these salient features of the new OPCRF, we want to emphasize the top-down approach of cascading the organizational outcomes and laying them down into the office or school's OPCRF, and at the same time, the bottom-up approach of capturing the contributions or the accomplishments of the delivery units from central office down to the schools as a contribution to the attainment of the organizational outcomes. So I hope that this endeavor, no, or these changes that we have made in the OPCRF would really be able to do this. No, that our intention really is to align with the organizational performance or organizational outcomes. Okay, so some of these have been discussed already by Yusek Willie and Lunas. So paano naman po namin masasabi? Sa ano pong dokumento ang magsasabi kung ano-ano po doon sa GAA targets or ano-ano po doon sa BEDP pillars or sa matatag priorities yung meron akong taya or meron akong contribution. We are developing this accountability matrix, no? And we will be uploading this in the RPMS library. Basically, inisa-isa po natin yung mga GAA indicators or org outcomes in the GAA, no? GAA sub-programs. We have 5 sub-programs presented earlier by Yusek Willie. And under each sub-program, we have specific organizational outcomes, organizational indicators, or outcome indicators, each one of which have corresponding accountable offices or units or delivery units. So, for example, percentage of completed education researches used for policy development. Sa central office, we have an office dedicated for that. No? So they are the primary accountable office in coordination with all the other offices in the central office who are performing policy development function. In the regional office, meron din silang policy planning and research division. Ang trabaho naman po nila is to contextualize the national policy that is aligned with the context of the region, capturing the context of the region. Ganon din po sa ating division offices. Okay. So, ito po yung ating mga GAA indicators. Meron po tayo, karamihan po, or ang ilan po dito sa mga outcome indicator, no, ay ang mga accountable office ay either up to the central office lang or up to the regional office lang or up to the division office lang. Halimbawa po, procurement of learning resources. No, procurement and delivery of learning resources in the science and math, no. Pwede ba natin, ayan, pwede natin makita. Number of equipment procured for distribution. That is one outcome indicator, no, that is required by the GAA. In the central office, we have the Bureau of Learning Resources, or in Cebu, no, that is dedicated to do this. At the regional office, the CLMD is mandated to do functions ensuring equitable distribution of the science and math resources. And the same as in the division office, we have the CID. Tama ba po? Pwede pong palipat dito sa ating kanan. Is it the CID who is in, CID, Learning Resource Management Section, who's in charge of the distribution of these learning resources. Now, ma'am, paano kung naman po, kung kami po ay recipient lang? Recipient lang po kami nitong specific outcome indicator na po. Anong ilalagay namin sa aming Now, yun po ay magandang tanong, no? Kapag po ang isang delivery unit ay hindi naman directly or beneficiary po siya of the indicator, you don't need to capture this in your OPCRF. Ang i-capture lang po natin sa ating OPCRF are those organizational outcomes that you are directly or indirectly contributing to, no? In addition to that, of course, the main content of your OPCRF is really your core, no? Doon tayo mag-operate sa core KRAs natin, sa core delivery unit function natin. And under each, doon po natin i-identify kung saan applicable or appropriate na ipasok itong mga organizational outcomes nito. Mamaya po magbibigay kami ng example on how we try to properly cascade these organizational outcomes or outputs from the central office down to our schools, no? So ibig ko sabihin, hindi po lahat ay merong taya yung ating school. So, pipiliin po natin yan. Okay, next slide please. Okay, so magkakaroon naman po kayo ng kopya nitong accountability matrix na ito. Okay, so in the next slide, ayan, this is just a summary of the parts of the new OPCRF. No? Mamaya po, after our health break, we will be discussing the details of each one of these portions. We just would like to present to you that the new OPCRF may be lengthy, no? May be lengthy, but it will comprehensively capture the office performance under Part 1A, Part 1B, and Part 1C that comprises 95% of the overall office rating, no? And the individual competencies of the head of office, Part 2A and Part 2B, including Part 3, the summary of ratings, and of course, the office improvement plan and the individual development plan of the head of office. Okay, so ito po yung itsura niya, no? We have Part 1A, ganyan po siya kahaba, no? Part 1B, in the next slide, Part 1C, in the next slide, Part 2. Okay, let me just focus on Part 1C. Sa Part 1C po, kung mapapansin nyo, meron na siyang laman. May prescribed na po tayo ng mga objectives and performance indicators. So, dadaanan natin siya mamaya. Part 2A, these are the leadership competencies, and these are the categories, no? Components of the leadership competencies. We have leading people, people performance management and people development. And in the next slide, you have part 2B, the core behavioral competencies, which have 5 components. Next slide, please. Or 6 components: self-management, professionalism and ethics, results focus, teamwork, service orientation, and innovation. So yan po ang ating components of the core behavioral competencies. Okay, so this is the summary of ratings. Dito din po natin ilalagay yung rating natin in each of the portions or each of the part of the OPCRF. At dito din po tayo magpipirmahan with our rater. Later on po, by the end of our presentation, we'll have a short discussion on sino ba talaga ang rater natin. Sino-sino ang rater at sino-sino yung approving authority. Okay, in the next slide, ito naman po yung improvement, school improvement plan and the individual development plan. We tried na ibangga po itong school improvement plan with your existing SIP. We captured some of the elements of the SIP so that pwede nyo na lang po siyang kopyahin dito sa ating part 4A of the OPCRF. Let me see the next slide, please. Okay, wala na. So in this school improvement plan po, makita natin mamaya kung paano natin siya in-align with your existing SIP. And of course, we have the individual development plan for the head of office. That is similar to our existing IDP. And at this point, we will pause for a break. We would like to get your insights, reflections, realizations on what has been presented so far, and we encourage you to give your feedback or insights, even questions. Sabi nga po ni Yusek, mapa-constructive yan or critical, please let us know in the Q&A link. Nandito po yung Q&A link natin sa Q&A section, so you may want to send in your questions and our team are answering, providing responses to each of your questions. So I think we are ready for our first health break. I'll turn you over to Mikay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Chanda. So while we are reflecting on what we have learned so far from the sessions, we will be having our first official 5-minute break. Thank you.